Welcome to HWL Talks, the podcast where we bring thought leaders together to explore strategies, challenges, and innovations reshaping the healthcare workforce. I'm your host, Amanda Wheeler, VP of Insourcing for HWL, and I'm beyond excited to be able to host today's episode. We're in a special installment today. It is focused on women in leadership and the power of strong partnerships, which was actually born from a remarkable collaboration between the two guests we have today. They're two women that I respect immensely. Watching them work together is like watching a dream team. They have had just such significant impact on their respective companies and contributions to the healthcare workforce at large and overall strategy. Joining me are Laurie DiMarzio, SVP of Client Services for HWL, and Darlene Souza, SVP and CHRO for South Shore Health. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Before we dive in, I'd love to have each of you introduce yourselves a little bit. Laurie, why don't we start with you? Just a brief introduction of your role, professional background, what you're passionate about in your work, and then we'll go over to Darlene.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. So Laurie DiMarzio, Senior Vice President at HWL for Account Services. I oversee our operations team, fulfillment team, with the account management and our compliance and our training team. But I've been in the industry for over 30 plus years. I started in the healthcare staffing, probably when it started initially. And then from that component, I moved into physician management group. I learned a lot about a completely different sector, thinking after 26 years in the staffing side on the nursing and allied, going into a physician management group was a complete learning experience. Talk about being humbled. And then moving into HWL, I'm back with a lot of the folks that I work with at Cross Country. My boss, Jonathan Ward, and I work together at Cross Country, so we have a lot of experience. My passion is helping others, bottom line. That's my natural passion. It's always been what I've said since I was a little girl. It is who I am. It is my governing focus on anything. And it's for the betterment of other people. When other people shine, I feel the best. I love working with other people. I love working with making things work. And true partnership is key to it. And just seeing people shine, I think, is the most important thing that makes me kind of thrive.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that assessment. You really do have people at heart. Darlene, over to you. Tell us about you and your role at South Shore.
Sure. So I've been at South Shore for a little over 4 years. I was born and raised in Massachusetts, and South Shore Health is located in Weymouth, Massachusetts. I came back to Mass after being in New York for 4 years. I've been in healthcare leadership for over 25 years and in an executive position for 17 years. I tripped into healthcare. I actually have a marketing public relations background, wanted to pursue that. Those jobs weren't available. So when I graduated, I had a communications degree. People thought it was a communications disorder degree. My mom was in special ed, so I tripped into that, got into management, went back to school for graduate school for clinical and industrial psychology. There, I thought I wanted to be a profiler for the FBI. Worked in prison for a year with a world-renowned profiler, and realized environment is so critical to the work you do. And it just bless people who do it. It wasn't for me. Had an opportunity to tap into HR, and then my career blossomed from there. I'd say that women in leadership, I got a great foundational training from a female director that set me up for success. I followed her to another position. She left, and I ended up moving into her position. So I do thank her for that. What gives me passion is similar to what Laurie said, is really supporting people, removing obstacles, and watching people soar. So how can we support people day in and day out to be their best selves? And that's something I want to continue to do and continue to focus with women specifically. And we can talk a little bit more about that as we proceed in the podcast. But I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm thrilled to be here with Laurie and with you, Amanda. So thank you.
We're glad to have you, and you've teed us up perfectly, I think, for how we talked about starting this, and really, for me, as I always just like to listen to the people that we're going to host on this podcast talk, and so the best part of this for me was just sitting back and listening to the two of you just brainstorm and just talk about your relationship. And as we were preparing for this episode, I was struck by how you two appear to have found this life hack of sorts for a phenomenon that female executives encounter a lot, I feel like. And that's this concept of the likability dilemma. And, for those of you not familiar on the podcast, Robin Hauser does a really good TED Talk on the likability dilemma and outlining what this is. But basically, the concept is that women in leadership and women in the workforce in general face these conflicting expectations. Being too strong but not too strong, and decisive but still warm, and being ambitious but still likable. And there's this constant tension that can lead us down paths that, while we have a heart for people, we sometimes will see each other, especially females, as competitors or adversaries rather than allies. But, in watching you two talk and preparing for this, you just seem to have completely flipped that script. If we can, I'd love to help others learn a little bit about how you've done it, why it matters so much to you, and what other takeaways and just little tips and tricks for that, building that type of rapport and relationship. Darlene, let's start with you. I'd love to hear your perspective. Why is this topic and this thought of seeing your fellow female colleagues in leadership so important to you professionally and personally?
It's critical, Amanda. I think first I'd back up and say we need to change the tapes, if you will. We need to change our perspective and how we approach things. The only thing we can change is how we respond. And we have, and I will say for me, I have historically relied on the patriarch as a point of reference and feel like I believe I need approval from the men in the room and from the executives in the room, and that's not true, because if you base it on likability, you're not being true to yourself, you're not being true to the work, and you're really not doing the right thing, and that's really critical. And I've noticed, even most recently as I get older in my career, that it's time for me to give back, and part of that is not start over. We have to break the mold and realize that we're holding ourselves back, and by not supporting each other, we're holding each other back. And the situation with Laurie, I was in a really bad position from a professional financial perspective. It was during COVID. We had an extraordinary expense as it relates to travelers. We had a hospital burn down next to us. We were getting a tremendous amount of patients. We were at 125% occupancy, and the rate of pay we were paying was not sustainable. We were losing money hand over fist, and we needed to do something. And the work that we were doing with HWL just wasn't fitting, wasn't working. And I was pretty intense and pretty mad, not at HWL, but where we were at. I just didn't understand. And instead of saying to Laurie, this isn't working, let's tap out, we picked up the phone. I think it was, not sure if I reached out to you, Laurie, or you reached out to me. It doesn't matter, but we said, this isn't sustainable. We can't continue to work this way. What do we need to do? And right at that point, we just started working in partnership together, turned the process on its head, and knocked it out of the park. I think working together, we created a sustainable model that individually would not have been created, and we could have very, very difficult conversations in support of the greater good, right? So it was a win-win for me, a win for Laurie and her company, but also understanding and knowing that this is this was a critical point. We were either going to make it or break it. And we did both. We broke it and made it. So by creating a new normal and a new product. So I thank you, Laurie, for that partnership, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to do it. But we weren't nice. We were kind. We were respectful. We knew what to expect, what we could ask of one another. If we could do it, we said we could. If we couldn't, we said we couldn't. And we pushed. We pushed hard and fast, and turned the whole team around. And we're in a completely different place. And this is at the expense of HWL. I'll say this last thing, from a financial perspective, because the true partnership was to get us out of contract labor. And so the worst case scenario, we were at 180 travelers, $210 an hour. We're down to 49 travelers at an hourly rate for nights-ish, blended about 100. So that is a completely different scenario.
That's such a great example, and I love how you put it, because there's just so much subtlety and nuance in the way that we show up and we communicate with each other. I mean, not just as leaders, but as women. And it's the way you put it was, we weren't nice, but we were kind, but we weren't nice. And so, on that kind of subject and digging a little deeper at that, I really want to get your thoughts, and then Laurie, yours as well on this. There's kind of two big themes that we tend to see especially when we're talking about workforce, because it's just such a visceral thing. When you're talking about people's time and their money and their schedules, and this your workforce is always kind of the most expensive, quote unquote, portion of your business, and so there's a lot bundled up in it. So there's two big themes that kind of come along with that, and that is listening with presence and intention, right? And then walking the line between being assertive and being labeled as aggressive. What are your thoughts? And, Darlene, I'd love to hear your insights on how you approach that dynamic, both with your internal team and your, external stakeholder partnerships, because there's something to be learned there, I think, that we can learn from you, and expand a little bit on that. We weren't nice, but we were kind. How do you do that? How do you accomplish both?
Well, I think emotional intelligence is critical, and you have to be able to read the room and understand people. My mom always said you get more bees with honey, right? So you start there, find out what the barriers are, ask what that person needs, and if you have the right partner, they're going to do the same. Determine what is you're able to deliver, and it's a win-win. It's about respect. It's about relationships. It's knowing when to push and knowing when to pull back. You don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be rude. You don't have to scream to get what you need. If that's what we as women think, then we're in the wrong role doing the wrong thing.
Right.
And then the other piece comes back to loyalty. And this is something that came to me recently, speaking of, and it sounds kind of funny, me saying loyalty, and I'm a very loyal person through and through, but I have to reflect sometimes and say, if I'm aggressive or if I'm a BIT, right, is that being loyal to my values? And the answer to that is no, not one bit. And so how do I stay loyal and centric to me, which is to be kind, to be assertive when I need to, and also it's critical to partner. You can't bring other women down. The competition is, I understand there's competition, but you need your peers. You need that network. You need to surround yourself with good people, because you cannot, absolutely not do it alone. And then I would say, we as women have a tendency to think extrinsically. I need to do this. What about that? Need to get that done. And our intrinsic thoughts are more like, why didn't I do that? I should have said this. And that's where kindness comes in. It's not just kindness to Laurie. It's kindness to Darlene. And Laurie needs to be kind to Laurie in order for her to be kind to Darlene. And so that's of critical importance. Blaming other people, blaming the white male is not going to get us where we need to be. We need to focus on ourselves and focus on each other and change the tide.
So true, so true. Laurie, thoughts on, I've seen you kind of in this same space and, what Darlene describes, and gosh, what a wonderful partner to have to just kind of, lay it out there what she needs to and pave the path for this great relationship with the two of you. But I want to give you some credit too, because I've seen you in these situations where, our clients come to you and they're like, I got a problem. And I want your thoughts on how it is that you see beyond the frustration or beyond, anything kind of coming at you, and you listen to a client and how that approach builds some trust. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I want to start with a little background. Where I grew up in Cleveland, I went to an all-girls high school. And you want to talk about competitiveness? It was there. But you know what also came from that? Collaboration, respect, partnership. I'm still friends with all of the girls. I go on girls' trips with. And what they taught me and what I have carried over, and, in the healthcare sector, and especially in the staffing component, as well as in the clientele, it's primarily women, is to look at us as peers and help build each other up and not be threatened by anybody who may have more or maybe on a higher realm, if you will, in terms of their career. Because when you start to do that, it's all in what you can control in your own mindset, right? So there's no competition. It's level playing, and it's just making sure you are honest. Darlene, you said something about true to yourself. It's authenticity. And if what drives you and what your passion is really caring about others, to me, that's where it's at. And so when I met you, Darlene, one of the things, and I said this to you, you've made me better. I mean that. And what that is on a personal and a professional level. You are firm, but you are fair. And I saw what you needed. I thought I have to take it from her perspective, not my perspective. Coming to the table with what I know doesn't help you anyway. Coming to the table seeking to understand what you know and the position you're in and the gaps that you're facing. And then just reading the room, use that. My reading the room is, where is she at and what's going on, so that I'm solving and helping the bigger problem versus trying to go, yep, I got that, and reacting. We women are overdoers. It is natural in us because that is, I don't know why, we just are. And we are naturally, more emotional. I think emotional intelligence is also number one, not taking anything personal, and really truly building a true relationship, building rapport from the onset, building that trust that comes through your commitment to what you're going to say, following up with it, and pausing and listening instead of listening to respond. Just really listening in on what is being said and taking it all in and restating what you hear. So you're coming away with solving what is really being expected. You're meeting the right expectations. And I will also say this, we all came from, COVID was feast or famine. Every hospital was going through it. Every vendor, staffing, nurses, you name it, doctors, you name it. And so to pivot into this crazy realm of chaoticness of, get staff, we need staff, to, okay, now we've got to rebound into a healthy budget, a healthy staffing ratio, get back into making sure we're in the compliance sector, and slowing down and really focusing. That was a hard shift when we were running a race for, oh my gosh, I don't even know, 14, 17 months for a period of time. It took us a while to pivot. So Darlene's situation was, they were in the middle of coming from chaos into, what is it going to look like? Because we can't keep running at this pace.
Right.
I saw it differently because we spoke, and instead of thinking, oh, you just need staff and we'll give it. No, their bigger problem was, how do we reduce dependency on contingent labor and help go and be a part of the team in their overall budget we were a part of the budget line. Well, let's be a part of that. Let's be at the table. We couldn't get to the table until trust was built, until we actually saw what we were solving. So I applaud Darlene, because Darlene's steadfast nature and vision. Wow, you're such a visionary. You were able to keep your team where they needed to be and work with us so that we could be the team with you. And that made it so much easier. So there was nothing strenuous about it in terms of, I never felt an aggression from Darlene. Her assertion was about the expectations, but it was never talked down to. It was so collaborative, so partnership centric, that it was easy to do. And we rose to the challenge together, and our teams bantered around it, and it worked. It was some tough times, but listen, if we can all go through COVID together, we can go through anything together. And we got each other. And I love the way Darlene commands a room, with natural leadership skills. And she's so fair. And I think I see in you a lot of me. And I think I can understand. I think that's part of why we built our rapport so much, is we saw strong women and we supported each other. It was so natural, so natural.
And I would say a few things you said, Laurie, is not only did we get to the other side, we have a sustainable model. And now we're like, look, Mom, no hands. It runs itself. We meet weekly. We've created the dashboard. You nailed it when you said we aligned on the budget. And to the point you made, which is of critical importance, and you said it a couple of times, and it was about listening. And the listening piece was, you could have easily, like you said, thrown people at me, but you listened and actually threw me the rope, helped us climb out of it. But wouldn't have done that, or wouldn't have been able to do that, if you instinctively and intuitively didn't listen and try to evaluate what the needs were. Because it was crisis, and sometimes in crisis it spins. And so we were able to, through your leadership as well, to plow through the noise and get to where we needed to go. And we did it sometimes laughing as well.
Oh yeah.
I think initially someone was crying on the team, right?
Well, yeah. And we were also, it was a paradigm shift too, because you think about the amount of the first off, you've got your staff, you've got the agencies, you've got the nurses that are traveling, the high pay rates that were going on out there, how to bring them down to some sense of normalcy, and then getting good qualified staff. But I want to say the term I love is less reaction and be more responsive, because we go so fast to fix and we got this. And what a real partner to me is not going to fix everything. It's about collaborative. It's making sure we know what we're lockstepping towards, versus, I'll fix this now. Yep, I'll fix this now. It's because I don't need you to like me, Darlene. I learned this through many years of I am definitely naturally a people pleaser, but I've learned that it's not about that. It's about making sure the betterment of the whole is always the governing focus and not me. And that is what I saw in you. And that is someone I can respect. And that is when we came together as a powerhouse. And
a powerhouse is an understatement.
Right. And I think if other women can see this, right, and even other partners can see this,
right,
they can see that you can work well together, because I don't have all the answers, but together we'll come together with a good answer. And what worked last year is not going to work tomorrow, because the market shifts, dynamics shift. You get different leadership that may have different goals, right? So nothing's ever going to be the same. The more it is, it changes. And the flexibility of that, and no blaming, that's what's been working a lot. And I feel like I am part of your team, and that is so important, because then you know that your interests are it's always about the betterment, but it's also making sure we can have some hard, honest conversations as well. Like, this won't work, and I wish I had that looking glass. And remember last year when this happened? Let's not do that again. And what can we do this year? And it's talking to each other.
You nailed it. Yeah, and you nailed it. Positive inquiry, right? We lost. I think in some way, shape, or form, we've lost the skill of debate. And it's either
That's interesting.
either I'm right or I'm wrong. Well,
the binary. It is. It really is. And that's,
nailed
you know, I'm sitting here listening. And by the way, our listeners just need to know y'all are making my life very easy, because you're answering questions that I have before I can even get them out. So I love listening to the conversation, but I do want to shift, if you guys are okay with it, on this thought that you have around, coming back to it sounds to me like this was very organic, and you both were kind of in that right mindset, and this was a fairly easy thing to look at each other as non-competitors and really collaborate. What advice do you both have when that's not the case? When you encounter in your work, and Laurie in your work and Darlene in yours, you encounter perhaps a counterpart that is trying to compete with you. There's this tendency, I think, sometimes, and that's part of the reason this is such a meaningful and powerful conversation that women have, that and feeling like, you were talking about with the validation, that external validation of the patriarchy, Darlene, and all of that. Sometimes it can feel like there's only one seat at the table, especially in those leadership worlds. And I think Friday in Becker's, there's yet another, article that was talking about just the number of, female CEOs in S&P 500 companies, and we're just proud that it's up 9 from last year to bring us up to a whole 1% of female CEOs in the S&P, and so I think that really edifies that this is pervasive. So, for two of you who so organically do this, I guess my question to you, Darlene, is when you encounter that and you're not as fortunate as have a partner like Laurie, what do you think helps create that safe space between women where you can kind of help de-escalate that and make them feel safe with you, that they don't have to compete with you? How do you engage in that kind of a scenario?
I would have an offline conversation with them and ask them what their goals are and what they're looking for, and determine how I can align with them for them to be successful. And their success is my success. And so in these cases, if somebody is very challenging, it's most likely out of fear of failure, fear of something. So how do we remove that fear? And let that person know, I'm not looking to be you, have your job, nor do I want it. I have enough on my plate. We just need this project to be successful. And so having that conversation with the person, not in a group setting, not call them out. And that starts early. So you have to be intuitive to what Laurie and I were saying earlier, to read the room. You'll know if somebody's going to be a challenger, is having a difficult conversation. And before you step in it, and there might not be a way to recover, have that conversation with that person and find out what their needs are, and determine what you can and can't meet, and be honest about it. And then also have that same conversation with them, because you deserve, or in this case, I've asked them, I deserve that, at least a modicum of respect as it relates to that. And so establish those parameters and commitments from each other. And if something does go awry, then let's have those conversations again, behind closed doors, so that the team isn't taken down by that. And we're here to pursue a goal. It's not an individual success. So that's what I would say. And I try to use humor when I can, to kind of lighten things up. Doesn't always work, and it can be difficult. I'm not going to deny that, and it can be extremely difficult, and it can take time. But establishing those perimeters right out of the gate and calling it out as soon as you can, in a kind but not nice way, can help.
All right. Laurie, what about you? I've seen you model this behavior multiple times with client relationships. And, for those that don't know, Laurie's job is to hear the good, the bad, the ugly. And so, when it's wonderful when we get to share these types of moments with the Darlenes where we get to celebrate the good. But, how do you maintain that level of trust, but set boundaries without, ego, and still keep those open lines of communication when you have those kinds of spaces where it's the bad and the ugly? How do you do that?
I think number one, you can't take anything personal. And even though we are the person that comes to the table, is just don't put it through the screener that, you have to, that it's personal, that it's attack on you or your character, even if you mean well. And know that there's enough to go around for everybody. That's the most important thing. And not everybody has to be at the seat of the table.
True.
I don't have to be at the seat of the table unless I'm responsible for something and I want to take that. And I'm okay if other people's, it's my job in the role I'm in is also to elevate the folks that report into me who actually are face front with our clients, and also not leave them awry, guide them. But for the most part, it's being confident to know that problems arise. There's no such thing as perfection. And people have got to stop thinking there is perfection. You can't have an answer for everything. What you can do is listen and say, let's focus on what we can solve, what is in our control. There's that circle of control and circle of influence, and being honest towards it. And for me, I will say the secret to any partnership is showing your vulnerability. I think it is absolutely okay to say, I don't have all the answers, but I will get back to you. Can you give me time on it? Not having an answer, not yesing everything to get to death, not being subservient, but being honest to a level that's for the betterment. I know I say that a lot, but I mean this wholeheartedly. That's when the genuine partnership starts to show. But again, I said, you start with confidence. Your confidence has to be there, but you can still be confident. I don't know that answer today, Darlene. Let me get back to you. And I'm hoping it's the answer you're going to like. And even if it's not, I'll still deliver the truth. And knowing that the person's receptive, again, reading the room. You can't make everybody want to be a true partnership. Partnership is a do. It's two. So you can't force somebody else to treat you as a partner as well. All you can do is be consistent, be steadfast, and always have the goals of the whole in mind. And I believe that's what's been working for me, because, I would love it if every day was a rainbow day. It's not a rainbow day. Not every day is a rainbow day. It just doesn't work that way. But I look at it from a rainbow perspective in a positive way. I'm very positive, and I help my team have a place that's safe for them to vent a little bit, but then I help reset them. I even say that, do you need a reset moment? Let's reset. Take some time, think about it, be upset for a little bit, but reset. And your reset is going to be your lead foot when you're having your conversations with those that may not be, they want the answers and they may be demanding or whatnot. But I believe that's been helping a lot. And I've seen that with the folks that I've been working with and how they have to overcome challenges every day. And also know that your partner on the other end isn't going to seek to understand your positioning. They don't know what you're dealing with. They don't need to know, but it is our job from our perspective to always seek to understand, but never expect that from somebody else.
That was spectacular, Laurie. And you do make it a rainbow day, right? You really do.
I try to anyway.
There was something you said about There was something you said about vulnerability, which is really important. It is crucial and critical. And vulnerability without self-criticism.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So when you mentioned, I don't have the answer, as women, we have a tendency to say, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer. So that goes back to, now I'm accepting blame for something I didn't do, or was not in my control, or I don't have the answer, I should have had it. I should know that. Really? Like, we always have, not always, we have a tendency as women to self-criticize or make these comments during the process, which limits the positive or the effectiveness of your point.
Yeah.
There was somebody who shared with me, I don't remember where the statistics came from, or it's more qualitative than it is quantitative, where if you come into a room, into a meeting late, as a female, we apologize. As a male, you just go and sit down. Like, you don't have to explain, I got caught in traffic. I had to drop the kid off at school. Wardrobe malfunction. No one cares. They don't want to hear that. So, you have that inner voice. Just squash that. Be vulnerable, but balance that with that inner voice or inner critic, I would say.
Right.
It's so true. It's one of those, I can't tell you how many times I hear people be like, maybe this is a dumb question, or I'm sorry, I'm confused, or okay, can you help me to understand? And placing themselves in those positions to where it diminishes. It is okay to say I don't know. It's as a leader, it is not your job to know everything, and it is not your job to do everything. It's your job to create the spaces where the great ideas happen, and there's room for your teams and and the people on your teams to create good things, and to shelter them when things don't go quite right. So, I kind of just, to round this conversation out, want a little bit of thought from the both of you on how do you respond when things don't go the way that they're supposed to go, and you have to just kind of own that. And what's the best way to do that that is not an I'm sorry? Sometimes an apology is warranted, and that's great. But it's how do you step into those spaces and places where you own the fact that, you know what, we made a mistake. Here's what we're going to do to fix it and move forward. And what does that look like for the two of you, especially in your relationship with each other?
You want to take that first, Darlene? Did you want me to?
Do you want to go? It's up to you. I'm still processing. So if you have...
Let me jump in because
Right, cool. Awesome.
of the way the partnership dynamic is, right?
Awesome.
So we provide the service for South Shore. So an example like that, we have to listen again and then say, let me get down to all the details as to where the breakage happens, so we can look to areas on how to mitigate it or offset it and shift it. It's taking ownership. And sometimes it's joint ownership, but it is not in my position to ever hold anybody responsible in a way that is antagonistic or puts them in a. I don't want to come across contentious. That said, there is a fine line when you're providing a service where providing factual information, because that's the facts tell the story, but you don't need to read the facts to tell the story. You have to say, okay, this is where we saw an opportunity. You look at it, it's the framing. It's the framing of what you say that leads to exactly what needs to be said. So you're not putting anybody up against defense, but taking accountability or shared accountability and having the facts to back it up, I think, is key.
Absolutely.
And I'll give an example as it relates to that. I would historically go in a board meeting and be nervous, and I've been to a multitude of board meetings. It's if they're going to call on me, do I have my stats? Do I know what the vacancies are? Do I know what turnover is? But there's going to be situations in which they'll what's your they'll ask a question, and this came up. So we were talking, I don't remember what we were talking about, and our CEO asked me if I knew the FTEs in our IT department. I don't know the number of FTEs in our IT department. And so normally I would try to figure out what it is. I think it might be this, it could be this, and hopefully not make something up. I'm not saying I do that, but you start spinning. I said, no, I don't know the number of the FTEs in the IT department. And he goes, you don't? And I'm like, no, I don't. I can get that for you, but I don't know. And so probably a few minutes went past, and our new COO had looked it up. He had his laptop wrote it down for me and passed it along to me and said, it's 144 FTEs or whatever the number was. And so I could have easily said it's 144 FTEs, but the opportunity came and I said, I just want to let you know, Sam was able to provide me with the number of FTEs for IT. There are 144. And if I didn't pause, if I didn't say I don't know, I don't think I would have formed that partnership with him or given him the opportunity to assist. Yeah. And so the point of that is you don't have to, the weight of the world isn't on your shoulders. You don't have to have all the answers. We're talking about partnerships. It goes beyond just women too. It's team, and you need to rely on one another to do it. And you don't have to be fast first. You don't have to be fast, and you don't have to be right all the time. But you need to collaborate, and you need to be effective, and you need to get the work done. And that's what Laurie and I did. And to your point, Laurie, earlier, I am a different person. Since the work we did together and working together and supporting one another. And I think it's just the beginning. There's so much more we can do to help women in leadership. And that is going to be my legacy. But wow. Have inclusion. You can't have inclusion through exclusion. And so it's going to be critically important for us to work together and bring everyone in that we can to support one another.
Wow.
Sorry, I didn't mean to.
No. I'm just sitting here marveling because this has just been such a great conversation, and what a great example of, just a true leadership trait of, it really doesn't, as long as you do the right thing, when it comes to who gets the credit for it, like it doesn't matter. You got the information you needed. It came out, and because you didn't step in and take that credit, wow, what a relationship builder that is. And it's one of my favorite themes in this conversation. And you're right, it goes beyond just a female leader's success, but just leadership success in general, that yours doesn't have to come at the expense of someone else's. And when you partner, like the two of you have, it actually exponentiates success for the both of you instead of dividing it. I really am appreciative of the two of you for taking the time and spending, a lot of effort getting ready for this conversation, because it's just evident it means so much for you guys. Any last remarks before we close?
I just want to say thank you.
Yeah.
This has been awesome. We probably can talk for hours because there's just so much here, and we only just scratched the surface. And there really is so much more into women in leadership, partnership. And I just think there's going to be more discussions as we move along. I hope we do another podcast, Darlene.
Make a recurring series.
Yeah.
I do. I think our next series needs to be about, there's some secret sauces that Darlene's got that really can put the health back into healthcare. And
wow.
Extraordinary. She's extraordinary, visionary. And this is what our nation needs right now. We need women who can really share information and experiences that can really fix a lot of things that are broken. So I hope we do that, and I look forward to it.
I would love to continue to partner with you. You're fabulous.
Oh, I love you.
Aww. Well, I appreciate both of you so much. This has been such a powerful conversation, not just because of the insights, because it's real. You can tell it's just a real partnership and a real relationship that's moving both of the companies forward. And it's just such a great living example of two women looking to better themselves, and looking to each other and looking to the women beside you for the strength and the support, instead of just focusing on that space in front of you. It's not just feel good. To me, I feel like there's a strategic growth advantage here, and like both personally, professionally. Darlene, you think, I'm a different person for this. I just don't think we can celebrate that enough when it happens. So I can't thank you both for showing us what that looks like.
Thank you. This was wonderful. Really appreciate it.
I agree. And so to our listeners, if you've enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to like and share. And don't forget to visit us at www.hwlworks.com to subscribe. Share your feedback and share your ideas for future podcast content. We'd love to have Darlene back as a recurring guest. Thanks for spending part of your day with us.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.